And welcome back to another episode of the Ball Watchers podcast. I am your host, Evan Blues, alongside my co host, Joseph Muto. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I feel great, man. How are you?
I am good. I mean,
Let's
we
do
are
it.
just sitting on a gold mine of NFL news today. Free agency technically started Monday. I think today is the first actual day of free agency,
Mhm.
but you know how it is. All the big deals went down. It's been spicy. I feel like this is by far the most exciting free agency we've had
Yeah.
at Ball Watchers. This is the third one we've covered, I think, at this
Yes.
point, and I don't know. I'm trying to think. I feel like last year's wasn't that interesting, but
No, 2 years ago was crazy. Last year's
yes,
was mid, and then this one, like I've seen stuff I've
insane.
never seen before. Transition tags, I still don't know what those things are.
Yeah,
Trades that haven't gone down, but like
yeah,
got taken
rescinded.
back.
That
Like
was
what the heck?
crazy.
So
We will
let's
get to
yeah.
all of it, all the big stories. I mean, of course, there is more than enough more than we can cover really with
Mhm.
news this week. I mean, yeah, it's not. We're not going to get to everything, but we'll get to all the big stuff, the stuff that actually matters, and then I think next week, we can pick up the pieces, talk a bit more in the big picture how this turns out for each team. But I mean, man, we've got a lot. Joseph, before we get started, quick, how are you feeling about your Steelers right now?
I feel okay. Some things I like, some things I didn't like, but yeah, I feel pretty good actually for the most part. There was one that I didn't like that I'm sure we'll get into, but
Yeah.
like the rest, I really like. I really love. What about your
I feel like
Seahawks?
they've done solid. Oh, Seattle. I mean, this is what they do every year. Is the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I can't. I feel like I'm annoyed, but at the same time, like this is exactly what they've done every year.
Mhm.
So it's nothing new. They don't really sign outside free agents until late into free agency for the most part, and they have a lot of money, but at the same time, they have guys in house they need to pay. So I don't blame them for not going overboard. And we'll get to some of the contracts here, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel okay. It's disappointing in some ways because there's players I like that Seattle didn't resign, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I don't know. They just won the Super Bowl. You kind of have to trust them at this point. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
100%.
All right, let's get into it, Joseph. We're gonna go position by position here, and we're gonna start off with the quarterbacks. Probably the position group we'll spend the longest time talking about here, but Daniel Jones, he ends up staying with the Colts here, 2-year deal, $88 million. A lot of money for a guy who's not even gonna play next year.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me why they just didn't keep the transition tag on Daniel Jones. It's not like these other teams are really hungry for Daniel Jones. The market on him was not like they could have, if they wanted to, swept in, matched the offer, and then he would have played for another team. You sign him long term to a 2-year deal, and it just like it's a lot of money for a guy like you said who's not going to play next year. He 100% fits the mold, but you still don't know what you're going to do at that backup quarterback position. You're looking to trade Anthony Richardson. Is Kyler Murray still on the table? There's been reports about that, so it's very interesting to see where the Colts go from here. If Daniel Jones stayed healthy, this contract is an absolute steal for the Indianapolis Colts. But at the current state right now, I don't really know what the Colts are doing. I would have loved to see them just sign the transition tag. I don't think any other team was going to go for Daniel Jones. He would have made $37 million that year. You boost his yearly salary to an extra $7 million by retaining him long term. And basically, that 2-year contract is only for 1 year in the 2027 season. So a little bit confusing, but still, at the end of the day, you know what you have in Daniel Jones, and he's your bridge quarterback for now slash long term quarterback. And I think quarterback stability is what the Colts have been looking for years, and they sort of have it. So I don't mind the move, but it's just still a weird one to me.
Yeah, and I guess there's a chance he does play. Like he did get injured early enough in the season where he could be back for week one. Like I feel like Kirk Cousins was around the same
Mm-hmm.
time when he tore his Achilles, but like it's also they looked so bad. Like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins both looked so bad, and Daniel Jones is a lot younger than those guys, but at the same time, it's just a lot of money to give to a guy who is not going to be 100% playing next year. And like I don't know, I feel like they need to be aggressive going after Kyler Murray is the big thing for me. Obviously, Kyler Murray almost gets his choice because there's not a lot of teams who will say no to paying him the veteran minimum here. So I think he'll get the choice, but I think you need a guy like Kyler Murray as a backup because Daniel Jones, if he sucks, the Colts are wanting to win next year, and if he looks bad, you bench him for the season, even if he is still going to be your starter going into the year after. But Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I agree. The just sitting him on the transition tag would have made a lot of sense, or even just like weighing your options. This did not need to happen. I don't think this needed to be rushed. Was
No.
my thing, and it
Mhm.
felt really rushed. And I mean, you heard Daniel Jones' camp or whatever wanted like $50 million or something, which is ridiculous. But I don't know. I also just like there's alarm bells going off in my head with this trade because yes, or this signing because yes, Daniel Jones was really good for the Colts when he played last year, especially when he wasn't injured. But look what happened last time someone gave Daniel Jones a big contract. So I'm a little concerned. I think the Colts are a much better run franchise and they have put a lot of pieces around him. The ground game especially really helped him out last year and I think that that's something that will continue to be a solid force next year with Jonathan Taylor at running back, but I don't know, man. It's just Daniel Jones. Is he really that guy?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's a lot of money for
It
someone. I
is.
mean, it's more than Sam Darnold is making, I'm
Yep.
pretty sure. And
Hmm.
I feel like Sam Darnold has a better track record than Daniel Jones the last few seasons. So I don't know. But we'll move on here to the next contract. We're not really going to talk about Kyler Murray just because there's not really anything um, like we can say at this point. We got to
No.
wait for him to sign here. But the Dolphins, they've made a couple moves here. They signed Malik Willis to a 2 or 3 year, $67.5 million contract, about $22 million a year, and they also cut Tua Tagovailoa. They eat $99 million in dead cap because of it, which is a historical number. And Tua also subsequently signs with the Falcons.
Yeah, this is just an absolute kerfuffle on both
Dramatic.
sides. It's terrible, and I hate it for both sides. And I'll start with the Falcons and Tua. I think Tua is such a coward with this move. I think he's an absolute bitch, and I don't like, and I don't respect Tua Tagovailoa after this because to me he's having his cake and he's eating it too. Like to me, it would be understandable if Tua would retire because over the last 2 or 3 years he's had so many concussion concerns in his collegiate career. He became so injury prone, and that's why he wasn't the first overall pick. Like, injuries have plagued his entire football career. Like, it would make sense. And over the last couple of years, he's played so timid, so scared in the pocket. He's letting go of the football so quickly. He plays scared. And I would understand why, you know what? You retire, you sit on your couch, you make $45 million or $50 million a year over the next 2 years. Like, it's respectable. But to me, like, if you are ready to play quarterback and you still want a chance, don't take a backup role. Like, take a starting job. To me, as much as I don't like Tua after this, he's a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. He should be starting, and like, he should be playing for the New York Jets, or if the Indianapolis Colts wanted him, like, he could have taken a job. He chooses Atlanta as almost sort of a cop out and a sabbatical. Like, let me just sit on the bench. Maybe I'll play quarterback competition with Michael Penix. Like, no, like, you're either in football or you're completely out. Like, I don't want this in between bull crap. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why are you competing for a job when there's other teams who are quarterback needy? And Tua, you could have had your services needed. So it doesn't make sense from his perspective. It doesn't make sense from the Falcons' perspective. Like, why did you cut Kirk Cousins in the first place? Like, Tua is a younger version of Kirk Cousins, maybe, but there is literally no difference between the two. This should have been Michael Penix's show. No one over his shoulder. Like, what does another quarterback competition in training camp do for your franchise? You're still going to have question marks of who the franchise guy is because you have two unproven talents and two very injury prone talents. So I think it was a cop out by Tua and a deal that makes no sense for the Atlanta Falcons, and it creates more animosity. We're going into the 2027 season, we're still going to have question marks on who the starting quarterback is for the Falcons, and they're still going to probably be 6-10, 7-9, right in the middle, and we're going to be in the exact same spot a year from now.
Yeah, at that point, just keep Kirk Cousins the
Yep.
backup because Tua or not Tua, Penix might miss some time with with his ACL injury before the season, but it's not like Tua's reliable to stay on the field like you said, and he's the only similarities in their game is that he's a lefty. Like Penix throws bombs down the field. That's the kind of style of offense he wants, and Tua's like short to medium routes over the middle of the field. Like they're very different quarterbacks. I don't really see the vision there by Kevin Stefanski, other than the fact that you get this guy on the cheap. But yeah, it's just it doesn't make any sense. I mean, honestly, I don't think I would have liked any team picking up Tua. To be honest, I just don't think he's a good quarterback, and I don't think he can win games for you. And especially Like the only thing I will say for Tua in this situation is that this looks good because they have weapons, and he can probably do better than some other situations. Like if he had gone to the Jets, like there's nothing there. Like it's just those terrible teams, those shitty teams. Like he's not gonna have weapons around him to rebuild his image here. But I don't know. I don't like it. I don't really like Tua as a quarterback. It just the Dolphins should have cut him, I think, but at the same time, I guess it just to me it doesn't matter where he goes because I just don't want him to play quarterback because I don't like watching him play quarterback. But for the Dolphins, I think this made sense. They need to move on from him. Obviously, I mean, I hated this contract when they signed it, so I just think that at least you swallow your pride here and just eat all the dead money. You made a mistake, move on. And Malik Willis is interesting. I really don't know what you're getting from this guy. He made himself a lot of money in what, like 4 weeks of the season last year. I mean, the Ravens game was very exciting, but the Ravens were not a good team last year, like, or not a very good team last year. Like, I just don't see what he's really put on tape that's like super like motivating and makes you want to pay him $20 million. Like you do need a starting quarterback, and he has some promise. And I mean, it's really just you have all those Green Bay guys there, and I guess they get to see a lot more than we do. So maybe they've seen like Malik Willis just be this real force in practice or something. But it's a lot of money to give a guy for like 4 starts last season, and I mean the Dolphins aren't going to be good next year anyways, so maybe it won't matter. They're not paying a quarterback a ton of money, so they can build around him a little bit more and just get this roster better overall. But it doesn't move me. Miami's not going to be that good next year anyways, and I don't know. I don't think this necessarily. I think this makes them slightly better, but like it doesn't really move the needle too much for me.
I actually really hate it. I don't think it makes them better at all, and I think they should have just kept Quinn Ewers. Like at this point, you are paying
Yeah.
$75 million between Tua's dead cap and Malik Willis signing basically a $25 million per year deal. Like, what is the point of this? Evan said it so beautifully when Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb got cut. It's like just because you have this money does not mean that you have to spend this money. And you did a great job of that by trading Minka Fitzpatrick away, who I'm sure we'll talk about, releasing more cap and just accumulating it over the next 2 years. Like you drafted Quinn Ewers last year in the later rounds. See what you have. Like, what else are you going to build around Malik Willis? This offensive line is absolutely terrible. Your two weapons in Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle are extremely injury prone, and this defense is it's terrible. It's god awful. Like there's nothing around Malik Willis. Why are you paying a backup quarterback his entire career $25 million when you are literally going nowhere? I don't see the huge progression that Malik Willis is going to take with this team compared to what Quinn Ewers was going to do. See what you have in your late round talent and just tank. Like you're going to tank anyways. This makes literally 0 sense, and it's a signing that I absolutely hate. And Malik Willis, because there was no one on the free agent market in terms of quarterback, he was the number one option. And I mean, it fits because all these teams were quarterback needy, but you did not need a quarterback if you're Miami just based off your current situation. It was a really, really dumb move.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I think that it's just Malik Willis has upside, and you're not. The thing is, though, you're not controlling him long term. You're not controlling him into a window where you might actually be good. Most likely, you're still probably going to be an average team at best. So it doesn't really make sense to give out this money. Like I agree, Quinn Ewers would have been enough for what you need to do next season, and you could have spent that money elsewhere. Instead, you have Malik Willis, who definitely has some promise, and I think could be a good quarterback in the right situation. But at the same time, it's just like, why, why do this? It's not necessary at this point. You might as well have just waited for 2027. And for Malik Willis, he could have gone to a team, I think, with a lot better like outlook, and I think there would have been teams who would have wanted him. But instead, he goes to Miami, where he's probably just going to be playing for a pretty terrible team overall. I mean, he has Jalen Waddle to throw to, but outside of that, I don't know. And I guess Achane as well. But like outside of that, he's gonna be running for his life, and he's gonna have to put up 40 points a game just about to stay competitive. So I don't know, man. It's a weird move. Other than that, I don't know. The Jets also traded for Geno Smith with the Raiders, but we can probably just move past that for now. We've got too much to get to, Joseph. Running backs, we're going to move to here, starting with Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker, who, unfortunately for me, leaves Seattle and signs with the Chiefs on a 3-year, $45 million deal. This was a lot of money for Kenneth Walker, Joseph, but the Chiefs are all in,
Yeah.
it looks like.
I'll start with Seattle here. I guess I'm a Debbie Downer today. I don't understand it from Seattle's perspective. Like, yes, I understand that the running back market, $15 million a year for a running back, is extremely rich. But at the same time, this is your Super Bowl MVP, the guy who carried you throughout the entirety of the playoffs. You know you're not going to have Zach Charbonnet come the 2026 season because he broke his leg. Who is your running back at this point? You haven't signed anyone yet. You have a low draft pick where maybe you can get a running back with that 32nd overall pick, but is it going to wow you? And is it this type of productivity as Kenneth Walker? So you can say that $15 million is too rich, but don't turn around a couple hours later and then sign Rashid Shaheed to a $17 million deal. Like, just because he's a wide receiver, he deserves that money. Like, I like what Shaheed did, but he is nowhere near the player and the impact that Kenneth Walker had on this team. So to justify giving Shaheed more money compared to Kenneth Walker just based off their position is absolutely stupid to me. So I don't get what Schneider did with this move. I would have loved to see them retain Kenneth Walker, and it made a little sense before the Shaheed signing, but after it was like, this is so dumb. Like, you need Kenneth Walker. He's the engine of your offense. You are asking so much of Sam Darnold, and if I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm kind of scared of that a little bit. They relied heavily on the run through the back half of the regular season and those playoffs, kind of hiding Sam Darnold a little bit. He's going to be fully exposed now. Can he step up to the occasion? To a certain extent, I do believe that he can, but not to a Super Bowl level type of offense where you lose your offensive coordinator and now you lose your star running back and your Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Darnold stepped up when Seattle needed him to, but at the same time, you're right. He turned the ball over, I think, the most out of any quarterback last season. And once the run game started going, that's really when Seattle hit that next level. And you don't have either of those guys for next season. I thought when this first happened, my thought was this is really disappointing. I was waiting for the contract details, and when I saw 50 million, I was like, okay, I don't think we should have paid Kenneth Walker $15 million. I'm comfortable with Seattle letting him walk for $15 million. I'm not going to defend the Rashid Shaheed signing. I don't agree with that. We can probably talk about that later, but it's rich for a running back. I 100% agree, but I think that if that was your move, like you had to go out and get another one of these guys for cheaper. Like ETN also signed quite a big deal, which we'll get to in a second. But like I really liked Tyler Algier and his contract, $6 million. I would have 100% paid that if I'm Seattle, and I feel like that backfield in Arizona is so crowded, and I mean Seattle's just a better team. I feel like Algier would have signed there. Like that is a contract I would have been much more comfortable paying, and I like him as a prospect or as a player. But you go out, you make zero moves at running back. You have George Holani, who was solid in very limited minutes, but you're basic, and then Kenny McIntosh, who's a seventh round pick. Like you're basically just leaving it to bodies at this point. And Kenny McIntosh did look good in moments, but I do not think either of those guys can even come close to matching the production. And Charbonnet's knee injury was so late into the season. I feel like there's no chance he comes back till at least week 8, and I feel like that's generous of a prediction. So it just it doesn't make sense. It's a really disappointing move. I'm still comfortable with not paying Kenneth Walker $15 million, but they had to do something else, in my opinion. And for the Chiefs, I mean, this is a huge deal for Kenneth Walker. I was really shocked by this. Like the Chiefs obviously wanted to be in the market for a quarter or a running back, but in my opinion, this is a weird year to go all in like this with what they've done so far. I mean, they really have shedded contracts off their defense, but they're building up their offense for Patrick Mahomes, who's another guy who might not come back till halfway through the season. Like this felt like a transition year. They're a team who definitely was in the range to draft a guy like Jeremiah Love in the draft, and instead you pay $15 million to Kenneth Walker. But I mean, I like it on paper. I think Kenneth Walker is going to do very well in Kansas City. He's a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield when he's asked to. He's great at getting to the outside. He's a guy who can break tackles. He's physical. He can always get that extra yard. And I think that that's what Kansas City needed because Isaiah Pacheco just could never stay healthy and they just don't have another guy. But I don't know. There's worries about Kenneth Walker, too, where he's a guy who's definitely been injured in the past. And I think there was a reason why mean, people get mad about this, but there was a reason why Charbonnet was getting so many carries, and I think it's just because they wanted to make sure Kenneth Walker was healthy, and there's not really anyone behind Kenneth Walker in Kansas City who they can give carries to kind of lighten his load a little bit until it matters, because there's a he is injury prone, and obviously that's not something you can guarantee, but I don't know. I like the move overall. I'm excited to see him in Kansas City. I think he'll be very good there. I think he'll probably exceed all of his totals going into next season, but it's a weird move for Kansas City in my opinion.
I actually really love this move for Kansas City just because like you see the type of runner that Kenneth Walker is where he's very patient in the A and B gaps, and you see Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith there, and you're going to say, okay, there's going to be holes for Kenneth Walker to really explode, and he has that speed to overcome the lack of talent at the tackle position for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think like running the football, he's going to be incredible. Andy Reid loves the screen game with his running backs, and Kenneth Walker is going to exceed in the passing attack as well. And just like 2 years ago, they went to the Super Bowl just because they were running the football effectively with Isaiah Pacheco at the beginning of the year, Kareem Hunt in the middle of the year, and they took time of possession away. And I think Andy Reid really wants to get back to that, where last year you really saw Patrick Mahomes put up great fantasy numbers and great statistics, but at the same time they were losing football games just because they didn't have that rushing attack. I think Andy Reid wants to get back to that rushing attack. They bring in Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator again, which I think is huge for Kenneth Walker as well. I just think like huge opportunity for Kenneth Walker. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be one of the best running backs in football with the interior of this offensive line and the scheme that Andy Reid and Bieniemy want to play. So I think it absolutely makes sense just because like the Chiefs can still make a Super Bowl push if they run the football effectively despite Patrick Mahomes' injury. So I think Andy Reid realizes that, and I think that Kenneth Walker is the perfect identity to be the heart and soul of this Chiefs team. And if he can hit the ground running, I think they could be a serious playoff contender if he is hot.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really depends on Mahomes is my only thing, but I do like taking it off Mahomes' shoulders a bit because they have not been able to run the football the last couple of seasons, so at least they're investing into that run game because my God, do they need it. It has not been a good sign or just a good look the last couple of seasons when it's all been on Mahomes playing hero ball. You saw, I mean, 2 years ago where it's just these one-score games and they managed to win a bunch of them and make it to the Super Bowl and get destroyed. And then last year, kind of the flip side of that coin where they couldn't win the one-score games and they just completely bottomed out. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I definitely want to draft Kenneth Walker in fantasy, so I don't know. That's where I stand, I guess. The other big running back signing here, Travis Etienne, a 4-year, $52 million contract. It's about $13 million a season, and I personally love this move.
Oh yeah, I love this move 100%. You just replace Alvin Kamara with a younger running back who plays a similar archetype as Kamara, where he's kind of an inefficient runner. He'll only get you like maybe 3.5 yards a carry, but he's so lethal out of the backfield catching the ball. And I think like this is exactly what the Saints need. And to me, like the Kenneth Walker and the Travis Etienne signings just tells me that Jeremiah Love is not going to be there at number 8. So these two teams desperately needed running backs, and I think these are the perfect running backs to complement with these offenses, specifically with Etienne. Like you saw Kellen Moore really have Saquon Barkley be an offensive player of the year and have a career year. And I think with this offensive line and how good it is and how they've built it up through the draft with Tyler Shuck, like I think that Travis Etienne could have a career year. I think a lot of the pressure was on Travis Etienne in Jacksonville just because Trevor Lawrence was looking a little shaky before last year since 2021 when he was drafted. He was looking a little shaky, but Travis Etienne was asked to do the heavy lifting. He did that early in his career and sort of really fizzled out until Trevor Lawrence started to turn it on last year with Liam Cohen, and Travis Etienne had a career year last year. So I think the same thing is going to happen. You have the offensive mind in Kellen Moore. You have the offensive line. You're going to be great catching the ball out of the backfield. I think that Travis Etienne is going to be a lethal weapon for this team, especially in this red zone. And I think that they have all the pieces the Saints do to really be an elite offense this year.
Yeah. And the other big thing about Etienne that I think this Saints offense has lacked a lot, I mean, especially after trading Rashid Shaheed, is he's a home run hitter. Like, yes, he definitely is a guy who doesn't necessarily have the most efficient rushing numbers, but he's fast. And if he finds that hole, he can gash you for a 65-yard touchdown, 30-yard touchdown. Like you saw that a lot early in the season for Jacksonville, where it's like Travis Etienne, 30-yard touchdown, 20-yard touchdown, whatever. And I think those are just huge plays for the Saints because they haven't really had that. And I think Kamara hasn't been that guy for years, where he has not been able to hit those home runs, and you need that guy with Tyler Shuck. It's just a safety blanket, someone he can check the ball down to, who can make a play with the ball in his hands. And I'm very excited about this move. I was high on Travis Etienne going into last season, and I feel like I'm just as high going into this season. And I feel like he's going to get even more of the workload in New Orleans because they don't really have that kind of bruising running back. Maybe Kendre Miller steals some of his carries, but excuse me, especially based on the contract, I think that this is going to be Travis Etienne's backfield all the way, and it makes perfect sense. They needed a guy to get big plays for them out of the backfield because outside of Chris Olave, you just don't have that guy. So this is a perfect situation, I think, for Etienne and the Saints.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, lots of other running back moves here, Joseph. Breece Hall receives the franchise tag from the Jets for $14 million. Bit of a baffling move. I don't really understand that one. The Steelers, your Steelers signed Rico Dowdle to a 2-year deal.
Oh, I
They
love
just
that.
don't want to give Jalen Watt. Oh my gosh,
Warren.
Jalen Warren. There's too many Jalens. Very similar names. Jalen Warren, the backfield here. Lions, they signed Isaiah Pacheco. Kenneth Gainwell signs with the Bucks, 2-year, $14 million. We kind of talked about Tyler Algier going to the Cardinals. And the Broncos re-signed J.K. Dobbins. So lots of moves. Any thoughts there?
That J.K. Dobbins one is really shocking to me, and it's like $10 million a year. And I know it's mostly incentivized, but like I thought they were gonna draft someone in the first round.
Definitely could.
Yeah, definitely. And you still have R.J. Harvey, so it's gonna be interesting with that one. I love Rico Dowdle. He's one of my favorite running backs in the league, and he was one of the best running backs in the middle of the season last year.
Yeah,
so
that 2-week stretch from him was insane.
But yeah, crazy running back market this year. I think Breece Hall's contract and Etienne and Kenneth Walker, they really reshaped the running back market, and it's cool to see them getting paid.
Kenneth Walker getting $15 million is probably only because Breece Hall got the $14 million franchise tag. Yeah, I don't know what the Jets are doing. Why pay him this money? It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to be good next year. A running back is a bit of a luxury. I don't understand. I do really like Tyler Algier to the Cardinals. Another move that doesn't really make sense to me just because they have so many names in that backfield, but none of them can stay healthy. And if one thing, Tyler Algier is almost always available. So, that sometimes the best ability is availability. Let's move on to the wide receivers, starting with a trade here. The Chicago Bears traded DJ Moore to the Bills in exchange for a second-round pick, Joseph.
Yeah. This is a win-win trade for both of these teams. I love it. I love when win-win trades happen. And for the Bills, like, this is the perfect wide receiver to pair with Josh Allen just because you replace Stephon Diggs and what he brought to Buffalo a little bit, and with a younger version in DJ Moore. He's still only 28 years old, even though he's been in the league since 2018. And, like, you see Josh Allen over the last couple of years really take that deep shot, really take risks, especially in the playoffs, which creates a lot of turnovers. And you didn't need that anymore. You didn't need to go out and get a Mike Evans who's going to get a home run, 50-yard touchdown, or trade for an A.J. Brown. You need a guy like DJ Moore who's just going to work the middle of the field, a possession receiver who's going to get like 5 catches for 70 yards, sprinkle in a touchdown every other week. Like, he's a great wide receiver. He's a veteran wide receiver. He knows how to get open, and he can work all facets of the football field. So he can work the short, intermediate, and deep. If you want to use Keon Coleman on the deep routes, Khalil Shakir on the drag routes, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid over the middle of the field. Like, DJ Moore can do it all so that these other pass catchers can really play to their strengths. And I think that's beautiful. And I think Joe Brady, his connection with DJ Moore in Carolina, he's definitely going to get him open. So I love the move. It just allows Josh Allen to not take as many risks. DJ Moore is going to beat his corner on a consistent basis. He's going to be open. You don't have to take the deep shot every time. Take the 10-yard curl. Take the 15-yard post. Hit DJ Moore, and he should be back to 100 receptions for 1,200 yards and like 8 touchdowns. And I think that's exactly what Josh Allen needs in this offense.
Yeah, they just needed a true X receiver. They didn't have one, and this is exactly the kind of player who fits with Buffalo. You just needed someone to be on the outside and be a reliable guy who can just take a huge amount of that target share. And like it it's people are not happy with him because of what happened in the playoffs with the Bears and stuff, but at the same time, like he has shown that he can do so much with so little at quarterback before the Bears. I'm not talking about Caleb Williams, but like it just he didn't fit Ben Johnson's scheme, and that's fair. And I think this change of scenery will work really well for him. I think a second round pick in this draft is not a huge loss for the Bills here. I really love this move for them. They have a guy on the outside that can be reliable, can work every level of the field, like you said, Joseph. He doesn't get in the way of other players that they already had, like a Khalil Shakir. So I love this move. I think it's a great move for both teams. It was not in the future, it felt like, for Chicago, but the Bills just desperately needed a guy like him, and it was one of the only options available, and it makes sense for both teams here. Yeah. Next up, one of the biggest shockers, I think, of free agency, Mike Evans signs a 3-year, $60 million deal with the 49ers. And we kind of talked about how Mike Evans was maybe a bit redundant with the Bucks, just considering the depth they had. Jalen McMillan's played his way onto the field. Egbuka was fantastic last year, and they paid Godwin a lot of money last season for some reason. So Evans just kind of was the odd man out just based on the timing of when his contract was up. But I don't know. The 49ers was not a team I was expecting him to be or like to be in on Mike Evans.
Yeah, I expected the 49ers to be in on Alec Pierce, sort of a younger wide receiver that Shanahan could mold, but like Mike Evans is still a really, really good move for the 49ers. I absolutely love it. A veteran wide receiver, you sign him to a 3-year deal at 32 years of age, so that's why you're only paying him $20 million per year, which I think is a great return on investment if you're the 49ers, and you finally just get a wide receiver who can just beat his corner and can go and Brock Purdy can go to on any given play. When the play breaks down, Brock Purdy doesn't have to do all this dancing in the pocket and buy his wide receivers time to get open. Mike Evans is just going to be open. You throw him up a 50-50 ball, you throw him a 1-yard fade route on the ends in the red zone so Christian McCaffrey doesn't have to pound it in every single time. It just like it alleviates a lot of pressure over the middle and deep down the field because you'll have wide receiver like Ricky Pearsall or Christian McCaffrey, even Kyle Juszczyk we saw second half through the season. It's only the short stuff, and that's why the San Francisco 49ers lost to Seattle. They lost to Philadelphia in the regular season. Like they were only giving Brock Purdy the short stuff because that's all that was available to them. Now you bring in a guy like Mike Evans, he's going to consistently beat his cornerback. You're not asking Ricky Pearsall to be the number one wide receiver on this team. He can learn a lot from Mike Evans and just really catch the underneath stuff where not a lot of teams are paying attention to him. And Christian McCaffrey can be a true runner of the football, which he does not have to be a wide receiver for this team. And you can really hone us on this run game, which Kyle Shanahan absolutely loves. So with George Kittle being out all year come next year, Mike Evans is going to take off the load for Brock Purdy, be that safety blanket, and it's exactly what this 49ers team needed. They didn't have a lot at their disposal offensively last year, and they made the playoffs. So with Mike Evans in this offense and Kyle Shanahan at the helm, like there's no telling what this team can do. I'm very, very excited, and Brock Purdy and Mike Evans is going to be an incredible quarterback wide receiver duo.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, honestly. I like it a lot. They needed someone to stretch the field, and truthfully, they just needed someone. Like, there was no one reliable on this team. I mean, Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings were both hurt for a lot of the season, and I think that while Jawan Jennings was very good when you had Ayuk and Deebo Samuel there as well, asking him to be, or when teams could just key in on him as the number one receiver, essentially, he was not good. So getting a guy like Mike Evans, who is a true number one and is reliable, as long as that hamstring stays healthy, I think that this is a great move for them. You needed something in the passing game. This was their biggest need, I think, going into free agency. And I love it. He was probably the best wide receiver on the market if you take out just going into next season. So I really like this move as well. My only concern is this team's going to be terrible in 3 years, man, because Nick Bosa is going to be done. Fred Warner is going to be done. Mike Evans is going to be 34 or something. Like Brock Purdy's going to be surrounded by a bunch of guys fading into the end of their careers. So other than that, though, for the next season, like I genuinely am concerned that Seattle's going to be the third best team in this division going into next season because
Yeah.
the 49ers have made the right move so far. I love Mike Evans going there, and I mean the Rams. We'll get to the Rams, but holy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this makes a ton of sense. They needed someone on the outside there for Purdy to get the football to, and Mike Evans is just going to be able to bring that big play ability back to the 49ers passing game, which they did not have at all last season.
And Ayuk's still on this team, so you
Uh,
never know.
Not necessarily. They said today they were releasing him, so
Wow.
or they
Oh,
plan
okay.
to. But I mean, at this point, I don't know what team is signing that guy.
No way.
I don't know what's going on with him, regardless of his knee injury.
Yeah,
Man,
no.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. But let's move on to the next thing here. This was kind of another kind of joint move here. The Colts, they re-signed Alec Pierce to quite a massive deal here, 4 years, 116 million, just under 30 million a year, and they subsequently trade Michael Pittman. They see Alec Pierce as their wide receiver one, which I think makes a ton of sense for the Colts. And Michael Pittman just wasn't really a factor, or he was a factor last season, but the same time, they save a ton of money by getting rid of him here, which I think they felt was more valuable. And Pittsburgh gets a guy, just at least a like serviceable NFL level receiver in exchange, which is huge for them.
Yeah, let's start with the Colts. I really like what they did with this move. I think Alec Pierce is, known as a deep threat. His yards per catch is absolutely through the roof. And I just think he needed more opportunities. Like there were a lot of mouths to feed in the Shane Steichen offense, especially with Michael Pittman Jr. there. And I just like them giving the opportunity to the young receiver. You clearly know that he's the number one in this offense, especially with this contract. You're not paying him a ridiculous amount, but if he can live up to his potential, like this is going to be an absolute steal if the Colts made this right. Like 27 million for a guy who's going to be like a 1,500-yard wide receiver potentially. That's the future I see for Alec Pierce, and I really like it from that standpoint. And for the Steelers, like this is a no-brainer. You trade pick swaps, which is basically nothing, and you bring in a wide receiver too at $20 million, and he just fits the Pittsburgh system so perfectly. Like DK Metcalf is only going to be like your deep threat 50-50 ball, which is basically all he was last year for you. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to work the underneath stuff. He's going to work the drag routes. He's going to work the slant routes, and I like Michael Pittman Jr. as a possession wide receiver, and he's going to be lethal in the red zone as well. He's so good there. So, yeah, I think it's a good move. You finally bring in a wide receiver too, which you've desperately been looking for. Michael Pittman's been a number one his entire career, and he's been like borderline elite. He's been a good wide receiver as a wide receiver one, so there's no telling what he can be as a wide receiver two. So I'm really excited from that standpoint. We don't know who our quarterback's going to be or who's throwing him the ball, but at this point, like, you finally have a good wide receiver two where you're going to alleviate the pressure off DK Metcalf. This is exactly what you wanted when you brought in Metcalf and you still had Pickens. So I can't wait to see this experiment unfold. And like 3 years for a guy like Michael Pittman, $20 million a year, I really, really like it from that standpoint.
Yeah, I really like it for the Colts. I think Pierce deserved the raise. I mean, he's just been there for a long time. He's a third round pick, and he's just worked his way up in the depth chart for that team. And he looked fantastic last year, and you definitely want to give him more opportunity. I also think that you had a guy there like Josh Downs who definitely deserves more opportunity and is a guy who can be your kind of underneath slot receiver. And then you have Alec Pierce who can stretch the field a bit more, work the deep parts of the field. So I really like it for the Colts. It makes a lot of sense, and it felt like Pittman just kind of faded into the background for the Colts as you went down the stretch last season. So getting rid of him, and I mean getting at least a bit of draft capital for him, is by like just a great move in that regard. And for the Steelers, I don't know. I feel like Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf are a little redundant, where a lot of the time they run. DK Metcalf definitely runs a lot more vertical routes than Michael Pittman, but like redundant in a lot of their short game routes. They're going to run a lot of the same things, but at the same time, like I said, the Steelers just needed someone who was like an NFL caliber receiver. So I like it. And I mean, you're just going back to what basically Seattle did with DK Metcalf, which is just send him on verticals every single play and at least once a game he'll be open. So I mean, it works there. You have two receivers who are really good in the red zone. You have a tight end who's really good in the red zone, in my opinion, in Darnell Washington. Like, they have the pieces around whoever their quarterback is. And I feel like it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's just waiting till free agency dies down so he can stir up all this drama and be in the news. We all know what he's doing. So, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, no one talks about him. But, like, assuming it's Aaron Rodgers, it feels like that offense is actually in quite a good spot, in my opinion. So, yeah. Other than that, couple more deals. You have Wan'Dale Robinson signing a 4-year, $78 million deal with the Titans. And I'm a huge fan of this move.
Oh, a great
Another
move.
team who, again, just had no real, like, talent at wide receiver. I mean, Calvin Ridley is just old at this point, and I don't know, he's not reliable. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is great for Cam Ward because he is a guy who can make plays with the ball in his hands after the catch, and I think that's something the Titans needed. You needed that explosivity, and I think he's also a guy who can just run those short routes, and just Cam Ward gives a guy Cam Ward can dump the football off to. So I love it from that perspective for the Titans. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, just a really good move. I think Robinson's a guy who, again, just hasn't had the opportunity necessarily to have a huge role, but he was really solid for the Giants last season, and I think in an expanded role, he can really be something special.
Yeah, he had the opportunity to be a wide receiver one last year, and look what he did with it. He earned himself like basically $20 million a year, and I love Wan'Dale Robinson, and I love what he does for this football team. And like the Titans are going to be legit, and I wish I could be more high on the Titans. It's just their division is so tough, but at the same time, like I'm basically all in on the Titans, and this allows you to have a wide receiver one, so you can probably take Jeremiah Love with that 4th overall pick, which is going to be a crazy, crazy offense. So I really like what the Titans are doing, and I think Wan'Dale Robinson is a perfect wide receiver one in the system.
Yeah, I love it. And then the Patriots sign Romeo Doubs to a 4-year, $70 million deal. And this one's interesting to me. I like the move. I think Romeo Doubs can do a lot more than he was asked to do in Green Bay, but he's definitely not your number one wide receiver. So that's definitely still something the Steelers need to look for.
Yeah, to me, he's like a younger version of Stephon Diggs. And I think they just want to keep it like status quo, where he's a possession wide receiver. He's not going to blow your socks off deep down the field. So I like it from that sense. You're just keeping it status quo. You'll see what Drake May can do with Romeo Doubs. I think it's a good signing, a little bit rich, but for a wide receiver one. But at the same time, like it just makes their offense about the same, which is just like a mid pick to me.
Yeah, he can replace Stephon Diggs for sure, especially last season Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And you have guys like Kayshon Boutte there, who was a great deep down the field. You have like Kyle Williams, who you're hoping can kind of expand and be kind of that slot like burner down the seams. Like, they have interesting pieces there. I still think they don't have a dominant guy at any like receiving position, which could be an issue, but at the same time, they have lots of solid receiving options. So I like it from that perspective. Let's move on to the tight ends. There's really only one deal of any interest, at least to me here. You have the Giants signing Isaiah Likely, 3-year, $40 million. He reunites with John Harbaugh here, gets quite a big pay raise, but this is what we've been waiting for, Joseph.
I cannot wait to see Isaiah Likely as a tight end number one. Now, Theo Johnson is still there, but like it's Isaiah Likely we're talking about.
Likely's also much more like going to play in the slot. Like, I think they'll play at the same time quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So like a 2 tight end system, especially when you only have Malik Neighbors as your wide receiver one, now that Wan'Dale Robinson is out of the door. And I love this move. Like, he is basically a wide receiver who just plays tight end. And you've seen like Mark Andrews take away so many snaps from Isaiah Likely, and now you're finally seeing Isaiah Likely in an offense where, you know, Malik Neighbors is going to be your number one wide receiver on the outside. Isaiah Likely is going to play majority of the slot, and you're just going to see Jackson Dart's eyes light up as a young quarterback. So I absolutely love this move. John Harbaugh is bringing in all his guys. They signed Patrick Ricard today as a fullback, which is cool too. So I just like what the Giants are doing, especially in the off season. They re-signed their offensive tackle, so they have their tackles in place. They re-signed Evan Neal as well. So I like it. I like what the Giants are doing, and Isaiah Likely, I'm taking him in fantasy. I want to take a flyer on him. And
not if I do personally.
But this is such a cool signing for the Giants, and I can't wait to see Likely as a tight end one.
Yeah, like I said, this is just what we've been waiting for. We just wanted him to get a bit more of an opportunity, and clearly, I feel like Harbaugh bringing him over and him signing this contract means he's going to be involved. He's going to be at this point the second option in that receiving room behind Malik Neighbors. I think he's a guy who's just so athletic. He really is that new generation of tight end that we're seeing, like a Brock Bowers. Obviously not that good, but at the same time, like he stretches the field as a tight end. He can make plays after the catch with the ball in his hands. He can run those underneath routes. He's going to be a reliable receiver. He's going to be an option in the red zone. Like he just does it all, in my opinion, and he just hasn't had the chance to really show that to like on a like game to game basis. But like he's been so good in stretches for the Ravens when Mark Andrews has been out, and I'm just really excited to see him in a bit more of an expanded role because he is just such a athletic tight end, and he just has these long arms. He has a big body, and I just want to see what he can do as more of a focal point of an offense.
The fact that they signed Andrews instead of him is actually
I
crazy.
know. Harbaugh, it was Harbaugh on
Yeah.
purpose. He was like, you should sign Andrews, right? Like he's a better tight end. He's done better. And it's like, what? Just let it likely walk, you
Yeah.
know. And then he's like, oh, sick. Now I can sign him when I leave. He played Eric
Oh,
DeCosta
yeah.
like a fiddle. That's definitely what happened there. Offensive line here, Joseph. I mean, we're no experts, but Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders,
Yo.
a massive, massive deal. 3 years, $81 million. Tyler Linderbaum gets $9 million more than the next highest paid
That's
center,
crazy.
which is ridiculous. But regardless of that, I like the move. My only question is, or I was a little surprised that he went to the Raiders just because they have
JPJ?
Jackson
Yeah.
Powers Johnson there, but he did play guard a lot last year for the Raiders, so you know they'll keep him at guard, which I like. And I mean Tyler Linderbaum, I really like as a center, and I think he'll work with this Clint Kubiak scheme just because he's athletic, he can move, and I think that you need that with the way that they run to the outside and also like run a ton of play action.
Oh yeah, I'm taking Ashton Genty with every fantasy draft I can. Tyler Linderbaum's the best center in football,
We're
and
gonna
the
be
way he
battling
pulls.
for fantasy
Oh
guys
yeah.
again. That bit me in. Well, I guess I almost made the championship, but it felt like it bit me in the ass early in the season. Kept drafting guys right before me.
You wanted to pick behind me.
I
It's
did.
okay.
I did. I tried. My strategy failed, but sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I love it. I think he's gonna be so good. He pulls so well, and like Derrick Henry had his best years in Baltimore with Tyler Linderbaum healthy. So I love it.
Yeah, this makes perfect sense for me. You need to protect Fernando Mendoza and spend on that offense. And I think they've done that in a couple positions. We didn't talk about it with receivers, but they also signed Jalen Naylor, who I just like is like your slot guy. He's fast.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's not going to be your number one option, but he's just a guy who can make plays and get like score big time touchdowns. So I like it from that regard, and it's just spend your money. They have so much of it, and I think you want to, when you're bringing in Fernando Mendoza, have a bit of a structure around him, and you have Kubiak as a first-time head coach. You don't want to just hang him out to dry with no talent. So I really like this move. It is really expensive, but why I don't mind it as much as it's only a 3-year deal. Even if it
Yeah.
is like super expensive and it doesn't work out, you're not hamstrung for a long time. It's not going to like restrict you from signing Fernando Mendoza in a few years if he does turn out to be what some people think he might be. So I don't know. I really like it. I don't mind them spending the money. Obviously, it looks a little worse when the Max Crosby trade falls through, which we'll talk about in a bit here, but like I don't know. It's a lot of money, but at the same time it's fine for me.
No, I love it.
I don't know. We're not O-line experts here. I don't know if there's anything else. I really liked the Patriots signing Elijah Vera Tucker, guard,
good.
tackle.
Yep.
He's been great when he's healthy. Obviously, the issue is health, but they also trade away Garrett Bradbury to the Bears here. So you're sliding Jared Wilson, their rookie from last year, to center, which was his position at
Yes.
Georgia. And you have a guy like Elijah Vera Tucker who is a Pro Bowl level guard, in my opinion, when he's healthy. So, I mean, you're hoping he stays healthy, but you didn't give up that much for him. I mean, honestly, for a guard, like $13 million is not a huge deal. So I
love it.
really like this from the Patriots. You need to definitely have some depth behind him. You can't just rely on him to be your guy. But if he's healthy, I mean, this is a home run.
Yeah, I love it. I love the Browns and what they did with Titus Howard, and then they bring in Zion Johnson and Eldred Jenkins. So
Yeah, they've done a good job.
They did a
making
great
this
job
offensive line again
for
from
sure.
scratch.
And also to like bounce back from the Drew Dahlman retirement, which was absolutely crazy that he only retires at 27. We're seeing that more with Ragnow 2 years ago, and just to replace him with Garrett Bradbury, who is a top 5 center in my opinion. Like, I love that move, and you keep that offensive line intact for Chicago.
And for a fifth.
Yeah,
like,
for the
not
fifth,
bad
that's
at all.
crazy.
He's also played with Joe Thuney, which you like. A little bit of chemistry on the inside there. So good move overall there. Braden Smith to the Texans was the other one we had on here. I like that as well. I really just like the Texans actually spending money on the offensive line, to be honest. It's like I don't even necessarily care about the move. But like Braden Smith has been really solid. Last year was a bit of a down year for him, but at the same time, like just the Texans spending money on the offensive line feels like a good sign, in my opinion. All right. The biggest story in free agency. I mean, it's not really a free agent move. That's why, but it
kind of is
the most insane free agent or like story that we've seen. Max Crosby, what is it, a week ago now?
Friday
was reportedly traded to the Ravens for 2 first-round picks. And we learned yesterday that trade had been canceled because Max Crosby failed a physical. And obviously it is within the Ravens' right to do, but at the same time, you knew what Max Crosby had a surgery on his meniscus. You knew he had this knee injury. You also, in my opinion, you knew, and I've heard other people say this as well, but you knew he would be fine by the time the season started. Like, he was injured right at the end of the season. Like, he's probably not 100% like 2 months later, but I guess for whatever reason, the Ravens changed their mind. They use that as an excuse, or they really just didn't like what they saw in that physical. But Max Crosby gets, I guess, almost traded back to the Raiders for those first-round picks going back to the Ravens. So Max Crosby remains a Raider. The Ravens retain their 2 first-round picks that they were planning to give up. But I don't know. This is so disappointing. I love this move for the Ravens, and canceling it because of Max Crosby's knees, which I assume would have been fine by the start of the season, is kind of stupid in my opinion.
It is the worst thing I've ever seen in sports. Just because, like, the physical is a complete excuse.
Worse than the Lakers nixing the trade for Mark Williams.
That was irrelevant, and like the Chris Paul thing was a league issue where they didn't want to make the league overpowered with the Lakers. But I've never seen something so stupid in my life. From an organizational standpoint, just because like you said, like everyone knew about this meniscus tear. The surgery was super successful in January. It's only an 8-month process for him to be fully healthy. He was going to be fine and 100% by September. It's a complete excuse. And I think DaCosta and the Ravens organization just got cold feet where they didn't really think it through. And I think like the only way that it makes sense in my head is that next season Lamar Jackson is due for an extension. And so if you're going to extend him to, like, name your price, $65 to $70 million per year, like if Dak Prescott is making 60, that's the market for him now. You want to retain your first-round picks because you're not paying anyone else, or you're trading Lamar Jackson, don't want to pay him that contract, and you just want to rebuild with all these first-round picks. I think DaCosta thought of that after the deal was made. So it's like, whoa, I want to retain my first-round picks because I don't know about Lamar. Let me have my cake and eat it too, sign Trey Hendrickson, and keep my first-round picks. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, to me, if you're a man, you got to keep your word. Like, you cannot just go back on it just because you feel like it. Like, Max Crosby bled the black and silver for 7 years. He has an incredible story, a third-round pick, went through rehab just to get here. Turns into one of the
Condor, man.
Yeah, turns into one of the best defensive players in the league. Signs a huge contract. Like, he was devastated to leave the Raiders organization, wants to bring a championship to Baltimore, and then 5 days later you trade him just because you don't have all your ducks in a row and you have cold feet. It is such a bullshit move to me and a complete excuse, and I have no respect for the Baltimore Ravens after this. Like, absolutely none. Like, as soon as the trades like did not go through, the Cowboys were on the phone, the Bears, the Eagles, like everyone wants this guy because the meniscus is not an issue. It's a Ravens issue. and they are like priding themselves to me on Lamar Jackson being there or not being there, and they want to retain these first round picks, which I mean the 14th overall pick now, like what are they going to do with that? There is no one. Maybe Sadiq is there at 14, but even if he's probably not.
They're not
and like
drafting Kenyon.
no,
Let's be real.
like they're going to draft Keldrick Falk? Like come on, man. Like we're not serious. I just think it's such a dumb move by the Ravens. The initial trade, like it was a win-win for both teams. It was absolutely incredible that you were Super Bowl bound. Now with Trey Hendrickson there, I mean, you just like deflated your fan base. You deflated the organization. To say that you're gutted because you wanted both Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, like that's not realistic, dude. Like it's very disappointing. I'm very mad at the Ravens, and it's just not fair that this happened this way.
I mean, I'm kind of happy that Max Crosby does end up staying in Las Vegas just because he's so iconic, and I feel like he just looks so badass in the Raiders uniform. So I don't know. I just love Max Crosby, and he was kind of just like the face of Las Vegas the last few seasons here, and yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know what Baltimore's doing, because the thing that doesn't make sense to me, and you kind of touched on it, is the Trey Hendrickson deal, because Max Crosby was making his contract wasn't even that huge. He's being paid like $30 million a year, which is just above what they paid Trey Hendrickson here. And obviously there's a lot of incentives with Trey Hendrickson's contract, but 4 years, $112 million. Like they just wanted Trey Hendrickson instead, which I don't understand. Like I like Trey Hendrickson as a player, and I think he'll be solid next season, but Max Crosby's another level. Like he is in the superstar level that Trey Hendrickson is not. And like Max Crosby's floor is so high because he is possibly the best run defending edge in the league right now. Him and Myles Garrett are at the top there, and it just gives you such a high floor. And he's such a great pass rusher as well. He has such long arms. He's so strong. He's fast. He can get around the corner. Like, I like Max Crosby a lot, and I love this move for the Ravens, and I don't understand why you would want Trey Hendrickson. The money doesn't make sense here either, because you saved not enough to extend Lamar Jackson here. And
$5 million.
Like, what does this even like say to Lamar Jackson? He's like, oh, sweet, we're getting Max Crosby. He was hyped about that, and you're like, actually, never mind. We're getting Trey Hendrickson, who, like, I don't think Trey Hendrickson's a bad player. I think Trey Hendrickson will be really good next season. I think that it was a down year for him last year for two reasons. One, he did not give a shit at all. He did not want to be there. He didn't care. And number two, because, like, I don't know, he was hurt for half the season. So, like, it's just, I think Trey Hendrickson is going to be good, but Max Crosby is a whole other level on top of Trey Hendrickson. Like, this just doesn't make any sense. You didn't save any money, and there was no way, like, from everything else we've heard, there was no way the meniscus recovery was that, like, bad or an issue that you had to cancel this trade. It's ridiculous. And no one's going to trade with the Ravens unless it's at an insane premium after this. Like, it's crazy.
Definitely not. And I think they thought, like, oh, we can have Trey Hendrickson and keep our first-round picks. But, like, you already made the trade. Like, why are you having that mentality? It's completely ridiculous to me. And another thing, too, is, like, the Bengals also are such assholes, and they're so spiteful for no reason. Like, Trey Hendrickson could have made $40 million last year. If you traded him, you would have got a first-round pick. Now you shunned him like $12 million guaranteed money. He's only going to make 28 now. He would have probably made 40 if he stayed healthy this year, or if they just signed him last year. Like, the Bengals are assholes for doing that, and I'm glad he went to an AFC North opponent so he can completely shit on Joe Burrow and this organization.
The Bengals are just ridiculous. They're like, oh, we don't want to spend any money on Trey Hendrickson, and then they come out this year and they spend a ton of money on their defense. And it's like, can they just make up their mind? Mike Brown, are you broke or are you not? Like, let's get this straight here. The next move here, we've got a lot going on. Jalen Phillips to the Panthers for a 4-year, $120 million contract. This is a huge contract for Jalen Phillips. I was surprised by it, but I don't hate it. I don't know.
This to me is my favorite signing of the entire offseason, just because, like, it's tremendous value, especially when you have a guy like Odafe Owe making $25 million a year, Danielle Hunter making $40 on a 1-year deal. Like, we'll get to those in a little bit, but, like, Jalen Phillips, if he stays healthy, Like, he is a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL, and this is exactly what the Carolina Panthers needed. I think $30 million is tremendous value, especially when the market is going into like the 35 to 40s for the premier edge rushers. I think Jalen Phillips is a premier edge rusher, in my opinion. When he's healthy, he was absolutely incredible for Philadelphia in the second half of the season. When he was with Miami and he stayed healthy, he was absolutely lights out. So I think Jalen Phillips is great in the run game. I think he's a great pass rusher. Him and Derek Brown are going to be absolutely lethal, and I think like the value just to get $30 million, and he could be a top 5 edge rusher if he has a full year healthy in Carolina, is absolutely no-brainer. And this is exactly what they needed, and they got, to me, the best free agent defensive end on the market, including Trey Hendrickson in that deal. And I think he has a ton of upside. He's a lot younger than these other edge rushers. It was the best move, in my opinion, and I think Carolina hit a home run.
Yeah, I love it. They just needed edge rushers. Like, they didn't have anyone. And Jalen Phillips is, again, a guy who, like you said, good in the run game, good in the pass game. People have really criticized his inability to finish plays. But then at the same time, they're also talking about how he led the Eagles in pressures last year when he was there. So it's like, you can't have it both ways. Like, yes, he may not be finishing plays, but there's something to be. Pressures are important too. That's why they're tracked. I mean, you're getting the quarterback out of the pocket running. He can make more mistakes. He might have to throw the ball away. So I'm very excited about Jalen Phillips there. The Panthers just needed their defense to be a bit more serious going into next season, because I think part of the issue with Carolina is all of the pressures on that offense, because the defense isn't stopping anyone. So they made the playoffs last year, and it feels like they made the right moves to just continue to be competitive here. So I really like it as well. Lots of other moves here, Joseph. I don't know what you want to talk about. The Cowboys, they trade for Rashawn Gary. More Packers Cowboys deals here, but they get a 4th-round pick. Gary's owed quite a bit of money and just wasn't doing a lot in Green Bay, so makes sense for both sides, in my opinion. The Bengals signed Boye Mafe to a 3-year, $60 million deal. That's a guy who is kind of just a backup for Seattle, but he definitely made plays at times, so it's an interesting move there. Odafe Owe cashes in with the Commanders, 4 years, $100 million. Like you said, Danielle Hunter, 1-year extension with the Texans, $40 million. Khalil Mack, 1-year, $18 million deal with the Chargers, which I love. That's a cheap deal for a guy who has produced at an incredibly high level in Khalil Mack. And the Bills signed Bradley Chubb to a 3-year, $44 million contract, which I am not a huge fan of. Obviously, really? Chubb, it just seems like, I guess it's not that much money, actually. I don't know. He just never healthy. But if he can be healthy, it's a guy who can play across from Rousseau, which they desperately need, but just feels expensive. I don't know.
I like the Chubb one. To me, my favorite one is the Rashawn Gary one. I just love what the Cowboys are doing with this defense. They're all in on the defense.
Yeah, they're making the right moves.
Yeah, and I just think I think it was a great trade for both teams, because the Packers were going to cut Rashawn Gary, and the fact that you got a 4th-round pick out of him is incredible. And maybe why would you trade for him if you're the Cowboys? You could just make a deal for him, keep your 4th-round pick.
Guarantees you get him, though.
But it guarantees you get him, and it's only a 4th at the end of the day. You have the draft capital to do it. Rashawn Gary's going to be better than any 4th-round selection that you make, and I just think that him coming off the edge, he proved in Green Bay before Micah Parsons was there and even before Lucas Van Ness was there. He's a number 1 defensive end, and he was a top 10 pick in the 2019 draft coming out of Michigan. And I love what Rashawn Gary can do. He's a veteran guy who can get you double-digit sacks, and him and Quinnen Williams are a great duo for a cheap price. So I really like what they're doing in Dallas, and to me, that's my favorite move. The other ones, like Boye Mafe, I think is an overpay for a guy who really doesn't produce as a number 1 edge rusher, and Odafe Owe.
He doesn't have the chance, but
yeah, but he has the athleticism. It just is a lot of money
for a projection.
Yeah, exactly. To be your best defensive player is Boye Mafe is kind of concerning if you're the Bengals, but it's better than what you had. And then Odafe Owe is just also a weird move. He had a very serious decline in Baltimore, gets traded to the Chargers, sort of has a resurgence in the second half of the season. It doesn't warrant $25 million to me, but at the same time, the Commanders are desperate. They also signed K'Lavon Chaisson today, so they have their 2 edges. It's just, the defensive end market is really, really weird. They are overpaying for a ton of guys, and it's just you can get them at any rate, but you just want your depth there, and I think teams are extremely, extremely desperate. So they're giving out the cash to guys who have serious question marks, in my opinion, but it's interesting to see.
Yeah, Odafe Owe, I like the move. He's not a huge pass rusher. It does feel a little expensive for a guy who is not reliable as a pass rusher, but he's just a big body. He's physical. He can stop the run. So he'll at least be a guy you can leave out there all the time. And yeah, they just needed someone who was under 30. So I like it in that regard. But I don't know. You're always going to overpay in free agency is a thing. It's hard to like judge in some ways because it's like you're trying to it's a bidding war, so you're gonna pay a little bit more than you wanted. Defensive tackle, there wasn't anything huge from
No.
this. Jordan Davis gets extended 3 years, $78 million, which was a little higher than I was expecting, but
Me too.
he is just I think he's an unsung hero of Philadelphia, and he gets overshadowed by Jalen Carter. I also think the Jalen Carter trade rumors are bullshit. They're gonna keep
No,
both those guys
yes.
and just have a beefy interior. Like I don't
Mhm.
know, what the deal is with those rumors, but Titans, they signed John Franklin Myers to a 3 year, $63 million deal. I think people were tweeting about this like way before it happened. It was pretty much a done deal.
Yeah.
Your Steelers, they re-signed Cam Hayward to a 2 year, $32 million deal.
So
And the
good.
Cowboys, which I like this trade a lot actually, they send Osa Odigizua to the 49ers for a third-round pick. He's a guy who's kind of a
Steal.
pass rushing specialist as a defensive tackle, and the 49ers need some pass rush, man. They do
Oh, yeah.
not have a guy outside of Nick Bosa, so I like this move for both teams. Or a lot more value than I thought you would get for a guy like that,
Same.
but I mean, I like it for both teams here.
Oh, it's a great move for both teams. Like you already have Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams if you're the Cowboys, and you traded away your third round pick this year to go get George Pickens from the Steelers. So you just replace it very easily with a guy who's going to be third on your depth chart. So I love it, and I love the John Franklin Myers move. I was shitting on the Titans last week for trading away Trevondre Sweat, and they replaced him beautifully and kept Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
So a great move there as well.
Yeah, they have a really solid front so far. I like those guys. I think they can. I mean, you go Jeremiah Love, you'll have your pick. I think of like a David Bailey, Reuben Baines. So there's a lot of ways they can go with that fourth overall pick, and I like what they're doing. They're giving themselves versatility. They haven't backed themselves into a corner. Linebacker, big moves at linebacker here. The biggest, the Panthers, they signed Devin Lloyd to a 3 year, $45 million contract, and I think this is an absolute steal.
Oh, it is a steal. Devin Lloyd's one of the best interior linebackers in the NFL, an unsung hero for the Jaguars defense. He created a ton of turnovers, forcing a ton of fumbles. And that's exactly what the Panthers need. Like, if you're going to give up a ton of yards, you better be able to create a ton of turnovers. That's what the Jaguars did last year, where they didn't have the greatest defense, but they created a ton of turnovers, gave their offense a ton of opportunities. And that's exactly what Devin Lloyd provides you. You have a pretty good secondary. You've beefed up this defensive line. Just have that heartbeat of the defense, which is exactly what Devin Lloyd is. He can provide a ton of spark, and at only $15 million a year, it's a no-brainer for a guy who was like in a ton of top 10 free agents rankings for a ton of these guys. So Devin Lloyd was one of the best names on the market, and you got him at a steal price.
Yeah, I mean, he's the fourth highest paid linebacker, which I think is huge for them because he definitely could have asked for top of the line linebacker money, even though he isn't necessarily the best linebacker in the NFL. He's up there, and he had such a good season last year. So I just love the instincts on this guy. I mean, that pick of Patrick Mahomes in that Chiefs Jaguars game was just fantastic. Like IQ by Devin Lloyd there, and it's just what the Panthers needed in the middle of that defense. I mean, you had Christian Roseboom was like your number one linebacker. Like you just needed an upgrade, and this was a perfect guy. And I think this is such a reasonable contract for the Panthers. They didn't have to overpay to get him, and it just makes that defense so much better. Their front seven with adding Phillips and Lloyd, you just feel a lot better about, and they can continue to add to it in the draft here. And I think their defense is going to be a lot better next season.
Oh, yeah.
What else? I mean, we have so many moves here. A lot of them are pretty like
They're linebackers.
insignificant.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I'm surprised the Jets getting DeMario Davis, 2 years, $22 million. I like what the Jets did defensively. We'll talk probably a bit more about him later, but I just liked adding veterans. They needed veterans in this locker room. They needed talent, and they've added a lot of guys who are at least like replacement level starters, which is not maybe what you could have said last year, but at the same time, I thought their defense was going to be good going into the season. It was terrible, but when your defense is that bad, you gotta clean house, and they've done a good job. with that. Broncos releasing Dre Greenlaw was a shock, Joseph.
That was crazy. I think the injury concern is very real, but they do re-sign Alex Singleton, who I think is an absolutely incredible linebacker.
Shout out Alex Singleton.
Yeah,
Calgary
Calgary
Stampeders
boy.
legend.
Yeah. But he's such a good linebacker. He should be the number one there. And yeah, Dre Greenlaw was just like, I don't know, man. He's so talented, but like not a lot of teams really want him. I guess I don't know.
Bring him to Seattle, man. I love Dre Greenlaw.
Him
Number
and
two.
Ernest Jones will be
I
crazy.
know. Put him as your number 2 linebacker
Oh
again.
my
I think
gosh.
that's where he's perfect. Ooh,
Mhm.
I love Dre Greenlaw. The other thing I really liked from the linebackers here, the Raiders, they signed Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker to
Yes.
3-year deals around the $40 million range for both of them. Again, just a team who did not have a good defense last year. 2 guys who I really like. They're younger. They're smaller linebackers, but they're physical. Quay Walker especially is a guy who can get downhill. And, yeah, I don't know. I really like this for the Raiders, just upgrading that defense. If you keep Max Crosby, I don't know. This defense might not be terrible.
Yeah, this defense had a couple of moves that like really shocked me and were pretty good moves. And 2 of these guys specifically, like they both know how to be number 1 linebackers, and they both have the opportunity to be number 2 linebackers. And I think that's perfect because Quay Walker can be sort of a hothead, and Nakobe Dean was so good in Georgia, and then he got drafted by the Eagles and really didn't do much. So
Didn't get an opportunity. it
yeah,
felt.
exactly. So I think it's a great move for both of those guys, and both of those guys were on a lot of teams' radars, and rightfully so. They're very talented, and I think the Raiders' defense is going to be severely upgraded. So
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and then the other move here, Leo Chanel signed a 3-year deal with the Commanders. I also really like this. Leo Chanel is another guy who
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of notice, but he was really, really good for the Chiefs the last 3 or 4 seasons here. I really liked him. He's great in pass coverage. He can get down in the run game as well. So I really like that move for the Commanders. Again, a guy who's a bit younger. Him and Frankie Louvu will kind of be that next generation for them, or that next kind of younger set of linebackers there. So I really like it from the Commanders there as well.
Yeah, I do too.
Solid signing. Very cheap too. Only like $8 million a year.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong there. All right, cornerback. Another shocking move here. The biggest trade we've had so far would have been the second biggest if it wasn't for the Max Crosby deal falling through the cracks at the last second. But the Chiefs, they trade Joseph, possibly your favorite player in the league,
It probably
Trent
is.
McDuffie, to the Rams for the 29th overall pick, a 5th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and they send a 2027 3rd-round pick back to the Rams. The Rams also extend McDuffie on a massive deal, 4 years, $124 million. But the biggest thing to me with this deal is the Rams keep the 13th overall pick, which I hate so much. I hate this. Everything about this.
The Rams absolutely fleeced the Chiefs in this trade. I understand that you have to pay him, but at the same time, if you look at the market and the fact that the Jets took 2 first-round picks from the Colts, one of those being the 16th overall pick, and you only give up 1 first, which is like the 29th. What are you going to do with that pick?
Good point.
And like a 3rd. I mean, that is such a fleece deal for a top 5 corner in the NFL and someone who, to me, is better than Sauce Gardner. And I think Trent McDuffie, just because he's a little smaller, doesn't mean that this guy can't cover.
McDuffie's been an All-Pro, too. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like Sauce has these accolades over him.
Mm-hmm. Like, Trent McDuffie is legit. He is a shutdown corner. He gets targeted a lot. And every time he just comes up big play after big play. And I just think that this is desperately what the Rams needed. I thought, like, their corners were extremely inconsistent. There were some very high highs and also some very low lows. And so you bring in a guy like Trent McDuffie who can be your true shutdown number 1 corner in a division where there are going to be a lot of wide receiver ones like JSN, Mike Evans, Marv Harrison Jr. If he can get to that point, like, you're going to need a guy like Trent McDuffie. They shore up this secondary very nicely. I absolutely love it from that perspective. They keep their 13th overall pick, and you get a top 5 guy in the NFL, and you lock him up long term. Like, how could this not be a great move for the Rams? This was their only weakness last year, and they were one of the best teams in football. So they can only get better, and they are Super Bowl bound yet again.
I hope the Atlanta Falcons feel bad, man. This is all their fault. I don't get how they keep getting away with this, man. This is insane. This is the 3rd time they've done this. The 2nd time they've done this with the Chiefs, Marcus Peters, Jalen Ramsey, and now Trent McDuffie. And it just, every time it leads to the Super Bowl. You trade for Marcus Peters, they made the Super Bowl. They lost. They trade for Jalen Ramsey, they make the Super Bowl. Oh, and Trent McDuffie is, he's better than Marcus Peters. He's probably not better than Jalen Ramsey was when they traded for him, but like still, he's an all-pro level corner. He can play outside, he can play inside. He's a great tackler. He's good in the run game. Like this is just exactly what the Rams need to do. They also signed Jalen Watson as part of or separate to this, but the other Chiefs corner, 3 years, $51 million. But they're just remaking that secondary, which was by far their biggest weakness. So yeah, they just like it feels like they're unstoppable right now, unless Puka Nakua like I don't know, just like fades off into the distance, doesn't report for training camp. But like, oh, I hate this deal. I hate it because it's good. I don't know what the Chiefs are doing. I mean, you get a first round pick, but I've been thinking a lot about this, and I feel like first round picks in this draft have way less value than the average first round pick, and it's just like
Preach.
I don't know who like they're going to get a good corner at 9, but that was already their pick. They could have done that anyways. And now you basically have to draft a corner at number 9 and possibly also at number 29. They also lost Brian Cook to the Bengals in free agency. Like their secondary's so depleted, and they did all this to sign Kenneth Walker.
It's just ridiculous to me. Like even like Kenneth Walker's only $15 million a year. Like if you get rid of Jalen Watson and you keep McDuffie and sign him to this extension, like no harm, no foul.
And they're good at drafting guys in like those later rounds. Jalen Watson, I think, was a later round pick.
That's the thing. They are so hell bent on like we can draft these corners. Like McDuffie was a late first round pick. Like we can draft these corners, and all we need is Steve Spagnuolo, and that's what they're banking on. They don't care about their defense. They're all in on their offense because they have the greatest defensive mind in the history of football, and that's what it comes down to. So it's kind of disappointing. Like you have, to me, Trent McDuffie's the 4th best corner in the league behind Gonzalez, Stingley, and Surtain. And other than that, there's no one better to me. But like, I don't understand why you would let that guy go. Trent McDuffie is your best player if you're not counting on Patrick Mahomes. You do not trade your best players for the 29th overall pick and a 3rd round pick. If you're doing this, you need 2 firsts at least. If Sauce Gardner is getting that, McDuffie's clearly better. You need more draft capital than that, and it's inexcusable if you're the Chiefs. You let go of Jalen Watson, you re-sign Trent McDuffie, and you can sign Kenneth Walker. To me, that 9th overall pick has to be an offensive tackle. Like, the tackles are not going to be there at 29 for you to draft, so you draft like a Spencer Fanu if he's there, Freeling if he's there at 9, project offensive tackles, which you already have in Josh Simmons, and that 29th overall pick is going to be Avion Terrell, Hood out of Tennessee.
I don't like Colton Hood or Brandon Cease, I think, are your options
like,
at that point.
What are you? Is that going to really replace Trent McDuffie? Like, I don't understand what we're doing
here. You still have to replace Jalen Watson on top of that. It's like
it's
both
stupid.
of your corner spots are. Yeah, I don't understand it. And it's like I get the philosophy that like we can draft these guys in the later rounds, but the point where that stops, I think, is when a guy makes an All-Pro. Then you can be okay. Then you're like, okay, we have to keep him. He's an All-Pro, unless he wants to leave. And I don't think Trent McDuffie wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And you didn't even get maximal value for this guy. Like it doesn't make sense to me. So I don't get it. Another deal I really liked here: Alontae Taylor to the Titans for 3 years, $60 million. Bit of an expensive contract, but cornerback contracts are getting shot to the moon recently. So I like this move. He's such a good player in the slot. That's where you're going to put him. You have a guy like L'Jarius Sneed on the outside, but he is just the prototypical big nickel, I think, right now, which is exactly what you need. He's great in the run game, and he just makes plays. I love the way this guy plays football.
Yeah, he is an incredible football player. Him and Paulson Adebo 2 years ago with the Saints were just
it was nasty.
Absolutely nasty. And both those guys got paid. Adebo with the Giants and now Taylor with the Titans. Him and L'Jarius Sneed are a great cornerback duo. That's exactly what Saleh is looking for. And like with this defensive line and now these corners on the back end, like they're a inside linebacker away from being an elite defense with Robert Saleh there. So I love this move. I think it's a great move and one of my favorite signings. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Saleh, like linebacker's a position that I think coaching is very important for, and like that's a guy you have Saleh. Like look what Saleh did with the linebackers in San Francisco last year. And I mean Sonny Styles is probably going to be there at number 4 if you wanted to do that.
Yep.
So it's like they have options there. I love that move. Their defense looks really solid going into next season. The Eagles signed Tariq Woolen, 1 year, $15 million. Another guy I would have paid $15 million for Tariq Woolen. I'll tell you that.
I don't get it. Like, why? I'm sure he would have taken a long-term deal with the Seahawks for less money, like a 4-year deal, and he's making like $12
Even if
million
you paid
a
him
year.
three by 45, I would have done that.
Yeah,
That's
like
not expensive. I thought he was going to get like 25 million. I was like, I don't want to pay Woolen
yeah,
$25 million, but $15 million, and he might have taken $15 million just to up his value going into next off season.
probably.
But
Yeah.
still, I don't know. If you're Seattle, why not be like, let's run it back for
Yeah.
$15 million? Who cares?
And like he's on a team where he's going to be the number 2 outside corner, and he's used to that with Witherspoon, and like he gets targeted a lot, so he's used to this. And I don't. It's just weird. Seattle is so confusing to me. Like I understand you won the Super Bowl, but like why wouldn't you sign 2 of these guys back? Like I would have loved them to re-sign Kenneth Walker and Kobe Bryant, or like Kenneth Walker and Reek Woolen. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
who else are you paying on this team?
Rashid Shaheed, man. Oh, I hate that move so much. I'm
Yep.
gonna.
Me too.
Yeah, I really like this for the Eagles because the number 2 corner, especially on the outside, was a huge hole for them the last like 2 seasons, especially last year though, where they
Mhm.
just could not find someone to fill that spot. And Woolen is at least a guy who you can rely on to be that guy on the outside. And I know like he had his issues in Seattle, but he made a lot of plays, and I think that you needed him. I mean, they have a hole at corner now versus it had they re-signed Woolen to a pretty reasonable contract, even if it was for a year. Like you don't have. I feel like again they're in a position where they almost have to draft a corner
Yeah.
at the end of the first round there. So I don't know. I don't like it. I really am not a fan of what Seattle has done so far. That Shaheed contract. I'm gonna digress here just because I want to talk about this, but dude, Torrey Horton scored a punt return touchdown against the Saints. He got injured, and I feel like that's part of the reason why you traded for Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
But why would you not just let Torrey Horton be your punt returner next season for like a fraction of the cost of Rashid Shaheed? Torrey Horton did more in the receiving game before he got injured than Rashid Shaheed did. Like, I just do not understand paying this guy $18 million. And I like Rashid Shaheed, but he had less. He had like 200 yards. I think he had 200 yards receiving between the playoffs and the regular season with Seattle. And unless they're next season, they're like throwing him 70-yard bombs like he got with the Saints. I do not understand this at all.
No, and like Torrey Horton can also be your wide receiver too, which is what
Exactly.
Shaheed's gonna be.
Exactly.
Like
It doesn't
you
make
didn't
any
need a wide
sense.
receiver 2 last year, and you won a Super Bowl with just JSN alone. And you have I forget his name, the tight end out of Miami that you drafted last year.
Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah, exactly. Like he can be a focal point in this offense as well. AJ Barner in the red zone. Like I don't get it, man.
It's sad. I trust the process because Seattle just won the Super Bowl, but that annoyed me. I don't like what they've done so far, to be honest. But good for the Eagles.
Mhm.
What else is here? The Steelers. Your Steelers, Jamel Dean. They signed to a
Nah.
3-year, $37 million deal.
Fucking hate that move.
Oh,
It's
I
so
like Jamel Dean.
Really? Well, it's just like there's no space for him. I don't get it at
True.
all. Like you have Joey Porter as your number 1, Jalen Ramsey. Like what are we doing with these guys making $30 million
going to
a
safety.
year, and he's playing safety, and he was absolutely awful at safety last year. And I mean, Deshaun Elliott was out for the whole year, and we traded away Minka Fitzpatrick to get this guy, but like. He's going to play safety, and we re-signed Asante Samuel to a 1-year deal who can be easily a number 1 corner if he comes back from that injury. So Jamel Dean on a 3-year deal, like I would have loved to seen them invest in other things. Like Isaac Simaliu went to the Cardinals on a 3-year deal, basically the same amount of money. We don't need a cornerback 4. We need an offensive guard, and it did not make any sense to me. Jamel Dean is very injury prone. He's a good corner when he's on the football field, but he's just like so unnecessary. If he does play a significant role, it's going to be as a slot corner because Ramsey and Asante Samuel and Joey Porter are going to be in the rotation. So it makes literally 0 sense to me.
Yeah, I like Dean as a player, but yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. All right, last position here. Another sad. Oh God, man, Seattle. Kobe Bryant signs with the Bears, 3 years, $40 million. Another very reasonable contract, in my opinion. Good move for the Bears, who did not have a safety under contract.
Yeah, this replaces their safety previously in Tranquil, or I don't know what his name is. I
Kevin
forget.
Byard.
Thank you very. Oh no, the other one.
Oh, Jaquan Brisker. I
Thank
think they
you,
might still
Brisker.
bring Brisker back, but
Yeah.
they are kind of similar, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think Kobe Bryant is a fantastic safety, and he's good in coverage, and I think that's exactly what the Bears need. They have so many questions at coverage and in their secondary. So I think Kobe Bryant just answers a lot of that, and it's so reasonable. Like it's
He's
a
so
great,
physical too, man. That's
yeah.
the thing I love
He's
about
great in
him
the
is
run.
he just like you saw it in the Super Bowl, man. He was just throwing his
Mhm.
body around, and I love to see that as a football fan. I think he's very smart. He forces fumbles. He just is exactly what you want. Is that like strong safety? He can play in the box. He can play deep. He has such good instincts, and I just love the physicality he plays with. That's another guy who, 3 years, 40 million. I would have paid that to him in a heartbeat. Obviously, it's a little convoluted because you have Julian Love, who you're already paying. You have Nicky Manwari, but like I don't know. Put Nicky Manwari as your permanent nickel. Spoon plays on the outside, and then you have Kobe Bryant and Julian Love as your safeties. Like that made way more sense to me. But whatever, you know. I gotta trust Mike McDonald at this point. I guess.
Yeah. You got a lot of extensions to do. JSN, Devin Witherspoon this year, Murphy next year, Eamon Warrior in 3 years. So
Yeah.
like there's some stuff coming down the pipeline that I think
But
they're
Seattle
getting
has
ready
like
for.
$230 million in cap room next year. I don't know, but I don't know. I got to stop whining about the Seahawks here. The Bears. I love this for the Bears. This is they needed this kind of physicality on their defense. They just needed a bit more in their secondary. They kind of. I don't think their defense is going to be good next year by any means. So they lost a lot of guys, but this was a good addition at the very least. Anything else here? The Rams extend Cameron Curl, 3 years, $36 million. Dolphins trade Minka Fitzpatrick to the Jets for a 7th-round pick. He signs a 3-year, $40 million deal as well. Texans side Reed Blankenship, 3 years, $24 million.
That's a steal, bro. That's gonna be crazy.
I
That
don't
defense
really
is
like
bad.
Blankenship.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know.
Blankenship. He's such a good safety, man. He's so good in coverage. He's like he blankets it a ton of stuff for them.
I don't know. I like him. 3 years, $24 million though. It's not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's solid. I mean, I'm trying to think. I guess he'll start. I feel like him and Petrie though kind of play the same position, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I guess you have Petrie
And the nickel,
move him more into the nickel, and then Blankenship more as your true safety. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't mind it. I mean, D'Amico Ryans will know what to do with him.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't spark anything for me, but I like Minka Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins as well. Again, you just need veterans in there. I think Aaron Glenn feels like he lost the locker room a little bit towards the end of the season. So, get a guy in there who's a veteran, knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Get him in the building.
Yeah, I love that move. It's just like you need at least some weapons around for Aaron Glenn to do something. So I like the Davis move. They lost Quincy Williams to the Browns, so I think that Demario Davis is going to slot in there perfectly. And Fitzpatrick he's still got it to me. He's still got it.
And they signed a bunch of other like replacement level guys who like you'll take it at this point. I don't know. Minka Fitzpatrick can get an interception, right?
Yeah,
just one. You just need one, New York. They need to. I feel like they need to get it week 1, and it'll turn their season around. They're just chasing that interception the whole season. It's going to be a long year. Probably will be anyways, to be fair. I mean, Justin
Geno
Fields,
Smith, bro.
Geno Smith, I guess. Oh, God, that's going to be fun. Can you wait? Are you pumped up for the Geno Smith, Justin Fields training camp quarterback battle?
Wow. Riveting.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't wait. It'll be that and Aaron Rodgers deciding if he's trying to or if he's going to play this year or not. So, I don't know. We have lots to look forward to in the offseason, Joseph.
Yes.
July is going to be fun. That's all I can say. But that does it for this free agency episode. We'll do a bit more of a team level look at free agency next week. Do some winners and losers, some of our favorite signings. Obviously, we went over a lot today, but I mean, we had no time for segments. We just had to do news, straight news. So, obviously we overlooked some stuff. There'll definitely be some big signings, I think, in the next couple days here. There's still a few guys out there who are intriguing. I think Kyler Murray,
maybe AJ Brown, potentially.
AJ Brown's on the block here. I don't know. There's some guys. We'll give you the big stories going forward here, but yeah, we'll be back next week, probably at our regularly scheduled Monday episode. But thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BallWatchersPod and subscribe to our YouTube at BallWatchers. We stream every single episode over there as well. So, yeah, until next time, stay up, Ball Watchers.